Married people of Reddit, what was something you found on your spouse's phone that made you think they were cheating, but turned out to be completely innocent? My wife started acting really sneaky for some weeks, having sudden go-outs with her friends, having some private spending and asking for money, getting home from work really late. The last straw was that suddenly she blocked her phone. We had our phones unlocked or we knew each other passwords. We were really respectful of our privacy, but she began responding messages on the night, taking phone calls outside the house and that kind of stuff. The very day that I was going to ask her what was happening, she threw me a surprise birthday party like 10 days before my actual birthday because on those days she booked a vacation to the beach, secretly negotiated vacation days with my boss, and got a granny to take care of the kids, all under my nose. I was the one accused actually. We both grew up super lower income, and when we first started dating we went to a huge birthday party and started talking about how we never had a big party like this growing up. So when her first birthday of our relationship came around, I snuck around for a week. I came off super shady, I guess, throwing her a huge surprise party. I saved like 3 weeks of pay from a RT delivery driver job. I was careful to never text anyone with the word party, so I texted a mutual friend who worked at a really nice bakery who was sneaking me an expensive cake for half price. "Girlfriend, is heading to work, can I come now?" She replied, "Yeah, my boss is gone for a bit, so make it quick." My girlfriend came to break up with me and walked into a surprise party. Still together 6 years later. My wife found a contact in my phone for Ashley Madison literally the week after the hacking scandal. She's the wife of the new assistant pastor at our church that my wife hadn't met yet. I was texting her because I was going to meet the moving truck at their house for them when they moved in. Not married but been together 8 years. Recently her phone started going off at weird times at night and she'd always shuffle about to answer it. Seemed suspicious cause I've seen her sleep through phone calls from hospitals, parents and anyone else. Nothing used to get her moving if she didn't want to be. After a week or two it started vibrating and she actually didn't wake up for once. I couldn't help myself and had a peek. She had started playing Simpsons Tapped Out again on her phone. All the vibrations were her characters coming back from missions and whatnot. Turned out she wasn't keeping secrets or hiding anything. She just wanted to get the missions done without spending money on speeding the game up. I was looking at something on Reddit with my girlfriend on her phone, and suddenly this app notification pops up with "You've matched with Tom" or something. We've been together for years, so I've not seen Tinder, but I've heard of it. For about 3 seconds I was silently furious. So I tapped the notification, and it brought up Pinterest. Turns out Pinterest matches you with people with similar interests or something. I think that's the quickest I've gone through such a range of intense emotions. I once suspected my GF was cheating and I looked at her phone bill, horrible idea, and became suspicious at a number she texted hundreds of times in the middle of the night. It was my number I had recently changed. Idiot. A buddy of mine and his wife had this text exchange. He at work, her in her car using voice to text that reads it back to you before sending. Her, "What are we doing for dinner? Should I stop at the store and get something or order sandwiches?" Him, "That works." Her, "Do you want meatball?" Him, "Who's Paul?" Her, "Meatball, meatball, do you want meatball?" They laughed and laughed. When we were dating I found this guy flirting with her hard. She showed me the messages to prove that they were just friends and he wasn't trying to do anything. So that's when I found out she has Asperger's syndrome. She's not so good at reading people or their intentions. She's also never had a brother and grew up with her mom, so I think she has an even worse time understanding guys. She's oblivious but she's honest, and honestly I love that about her. Not me but my aunt and uncle. When my aunt got her first phone with a camera, my 12-year-old cousin loved using it to take pictures and one day decided to take a picture of his junk. Some time later my uncle was looking through my aunt's photos to find a picture of the family he wanted to have printed, and he saw the pic of my cousin's Johnson and immediately got upset. Started yelling, crying, the whole nine. My aunt had no clue how a picture of someone's junk ended up on her phone. They were arguing in the kitchen when my cousin walks in, sees the picture. My uncle was holding the phone while yelling, casually says, "Hey, That's a picture of my D, and then walks out of the room. My aunt and uncle just stared at each other for a few minutes before going to have a talk with my cousin. Walked in on my neighbor balls deep inside my wife. Turns out my neighbor ran out of hot water and wanted to use our shower. He ended up slipping and hitting his head in the shower and it rung his bell pretty hard. He had forgotten that he was not in his own house and went to the bedroom to have sex with who he thought was his wife. My wife, who at the time just made tea, went to squeeze lemon into her tea and some lemon juice squirted in her eye. The stinging of the lemon juice made it hard for her to open her eyes. When my neighbor, in his concussed state, went to have sex with my wife, thinking it was his wife, she thought it was me because her eyes were closed from the lemon juice. I was utterly furious at first, but after she explained, we all had a good laugh. He had a text from an unsaved phone number. It said, "His isn't as big as yours. Yours was good and huge." His reply was, "Bigly, eh?" Turns out it was a guy he works with talking about tamales. Wife texted "I love you John" to me. My name is not John. So I just stared at my phone in disbelief until I realized that H, N, and J are all next to each other on a keyboard. It was all just a typo. She actually tried texting "I love you Hon" but she misspelled Hon, which was auto-corrected to John, and she didn't catch it before hitting send. Or after hitting send for that matter. My wife and I had a good laugh when I pointed it out that evening. I found a picture of her stroking my friend's D. It turns out she was just helping him check for ticks after hiking. Not on his phone, so this story may not fit the question. But I was once laying my head on my so's lap as he sat on the couch and I was stretched out next to him. He was watching TV and I was scrolling through Facebook. A friend of mine had posted a picture from the perspective of her own eyes, as she laid bikini clad on a beach chair. I stopped scrolling to look at the picture. After a second or so, my so says in an incredibly lustful tone, "God, I could really tear into that right now." Boy, I saw his life flash before my eyes. I shouted, "What the duck? What's wrong with you?" He seemed shocked and defensive. After a few moments of confusion on both ends, he pointed to the TV. There was a Hardee's commercial on, with 60 close-up shots of a double bacon cheeseburger. He had been lusting after the burger. Spent a lot of time in a relationship with a chronic cheater. I'm now in a relationship with someone who is actually a respectable human being. When we first started dating, I couldn't let old habits die and I went through his text messages. Found one going on and on about how beautiful someone named Charlotte was. I died inside. Turns out it was his friend's newborn baby. Lesson learned. I'm an asshole. He is not. I'm sure my ex thought she found something when I got a notification that asked, "Is it hard?" It was a classmate asking about the math homework. Nothing got us heated more than talking about sines and cosines. Not married, but had been seeing this guy for a few months and he was showing me something on his phone. As he was swiping across the home screens, I saw a flash of an icon that looked like Tinder. I got the hump a bit but figured we've not been together that long so I can't really itch. Turns out he has a health affliction and it was a medical app to track his treatment. Did I find my iPhone on my wife because she was very late coming home. She was on the other side of town where we knew no one. Thoughts in my head of cheating. What the hell is she doing over there? She finally came home so I confronted her. She had a startled look on her face which was guilty as it. Turns out she was getting a Botox treatment and didn't want me to know. Ouch. Opposite experience. My wife's phone was on the kitchen counter and she got a text. It said something to the effect of, "Tomorrow I'll need help in Mrs. Insert names," and it was from a guy whose name I didn't recognize. I told my wife she got a text and asked my wife who it was. She told me it was her co-worker, nursing home. I had no reason to not trust her. Neither of us kept our phones locked. I read a couple texts while I was walking it over to her. All the texts seemed work related. "Can you help me in Mrs. So-and-so's room? I'm swamped. I'll be here till at least 6 inches." I didn't think anything of it. I even said to her, "Baby, you're working too hard." Later I found out she'd been fooling around with this guy at work and those texts were code for "let's meet up." My boyfriend mentioned he was going to a show with a female friend of his on his birthday. I hadn't concretely set up plans, but I usually take him out or make a nice dinner on his birthday and give him presents. I remember being confused and annoyed that he would prioritize hanging out with this attractive girl over myself. I didn't really suspect him of cheating, just being oblivious. But I finally broke down and asked him WTH he was doing. Yeah, his birthday was the day after. I got his birthday wrong after 4+ years of knowing him. Edit no, I was not worried about him cheating. I was resentful and butthurt, thinking I wasn't going to the one with him on his birthday and insecure about my self-worth in that moment. But that reaction was on me. Those were my feelings and insecurities. I have still felt almost exactly the same way even if he'd been going to hang out with a male friend. I just probably wouldn't have reflexively compared myself against the hypothetical dude. We communicate openly and honestly and always have. We both have opposite gendered friends. Neither of us would dream to tell the other that they couldn't or shouldn't. I haven't found anything on my SOS phone because it says he has a right to privacy. Not married, but had an ex that confronted me about cheating and how my friends had told her about Sylvia. Sylvia was a Nissan Silvia I was looking at buying. My friend called me crying 2 weeks after her and her husband had been married. She had found images on her husband's phone, FB Messenger history images, after snooping on it. He is super protective over his phone after a jealous ex abused her rights, I guess. I calmed her down and tell her to talk to him. Turns out it was her husband's dumbest friend sending him pics of his hot new side hoe. The husband promptly asked him not to send pics like that and deleted them. She honestly accuses him of cheating so much it's infuriating. I mean, I get trust issues, but damn, I find it so insulting to the honest man. Not on his phone, but on our computer. It was a picture of a woman with her back to the camera. She was wearing a long, flowing black dress, holding a glass of wine on what appeared to be a large boat. I had no idea who this woman was, and why my husband had taken a picture of her. While I didn't think he was cheating, I was really confused. I finally asked him about it. He said, "Honey, that's you from our cruise." I had no idea he'd taken the pic and totally didn't recognize myself. Edit, added pic for reference. Not me, but my in-laws. My father-in-law smokes weed. After some time, my mother-in-law hears him talking on the phone with another woman. This continues for a bit and suspects him of cheating. Eventually he confesses to her that this mystery woman is just his dealer after she filed for divorce. They still live together. My wife was married before we got together. When she was in the shower, her phone rang ANF. Some studly young guy appeared on the screen with the caller ID. I tried to not let myself get upset. It could be a friend. Then I recognized the face of the guy. It was her son. I myself hadn't seen him in a while and he really grew up in that time. I was at a bar with my friend when this girl walked up and asked to use my phone to text her boyfriend. Hers was dead and she wanted him to meet her in front of the bar. Her text read, "Hey babe, meet me in front of Otis." Nothing about who she was or her phone being dead. That was a tough one to explain. My wife had all these pictures of her giving blowjobs, but they were me while I was asleep. Apparently I'm black when I'm unconscious. My husband and I traveling separately to meet in a shopping mall. We both thought we were talking about the same place when we said we would meet at the food court. But there are 2 food courts and we were in different ones. I texted him Marco. From his point of view, I was 20 minutes late to meet him at the mall and suddenly mysteriously texting men he doesn't know. Apparently they don't play Marco Polo in Australia. Luca sent you a message multiple times per week. Icon looks not like any texting app I know. WhatsApp, SMS, Telegram, whatever. Being a reasonable person, I check with her, who is this Luca? Turns out there's an app that reminds you to perform a mammography on yourself at regular intervals, and you can choose a model type who will write you regularly to remind you to massage your boobs. Genius. One night we were laying in bed just having some causal conversation while he scrolls through his phone. I turn over to look at him and see what's on his phone screen, and it's Tinder Messenger. I look up onto the corner and see his picture. I jump out of bed and start screaming, "Are you really sitting right next to me in bed on $? And at Tinder? Full stop." He looks at me terrified and clueless and he's like, "No, see, it's just pictures." It was pictures of screenshots his twin brother sent him of his own Tinder conversations asking for advice. I've never experienced such intense rage and intense regret as I did in those 2 minutes. When my grandparents were young, my granddad suddenly used to come home late, having weird excuses for it. My grandmother was sure he had another, but didn't say anything, kids and all. One day he came home with a car. As a surprise, he was learning to drive. They've been happily married until he died 2 years ago, age 97. Found a pic of an absolute monster cock on her phone. Turns out it was her dad's. Thank God. Tinder. She does it for fun. Sometimes meets guys. Wants just the tip but really it's for entertainment. I felt so stupid. My husband has exactly 3 numbers in his phone. Me, his mom, and his male boss. Literally no one else messages or calls him. Her lack of sex drive for 6 months about 3 years into the relationship. Turns out, one of her kidneys was slowly dying, and her birth control was messing her up real bad. Apparently she had already seen the doctor 4 times and I went with her the 5th time. She was doing monthly visits to find out why she had zero libido and a migraine 1-2 times a week. When I found out I tried very hard to never pressure her into anything sexual, because if she wasn't into it, I would feel awkward afterwards. Went 8 months without doing stuff, and now 4 years later we are still going strong. Edits more than I misread the title. Nothing involving a phone made me think she was cheating, just the lack of a libido, 100% gone. Also we have been together 9 years and this happened closer to 6 years ago, not 4 years ago. Let me know if you have any questions. It was Reddit. Actually, my wife was suspicious that I was frequently typing on my phone and would often ask, "Who are you messaging?" Out of pure embarrassment and shame I would just dismiss it by saying it was nothing. Which isn't the right thing to do, but in my mind her thinking I'm having an affair is less embarrassing than her reading my comment history after relenting for so long. One day I finally broke down and let her read it, and after 10 minutes she admitted she was happier when she thought I was being unfaithful to her. My husband likes to plan big elaborate surprises for me sometimes. One time he forgot to tell me that he was planning something and started tilting his phone away from me when he got Facebook messages. Then he remembered and was like, "Sorry, I'm doing an anniversary thing for you. Don't look." I never suspected he was doing anything bad. It was just weird that he hadn't said anything first. This vaguely applies, so I'm sharing. A couple years ago I downloaded one of those text to voice apps that dictates all your text messages aloud and states who they're from. At my son's birthday party, my buddy thought it would be hilarious to steal my phone while no one was looking and change his contact name to Samantha. He then waited until we were all around, my wife's parents included, to text me, which loudly chimed and announced itself like this. New text message from Samantha. "Hi babe, I miss you. When does your wife work again so I can come over?" Now, I don't know any Samanthas, but needless to say, I went into damage control mode pretty fast. My husband has a group chat called Buttsies. After worrying he might be cheating or gay or curious, I'm a woman, I confronted him. Turned out his friends are just weirdos. It's the name of the group chat they use to organize when they'll all play Overwatch together. Not exactly what you are asking for, but years ago I was going through a stack of mail to pay the bills and I came across a letter from the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada that read, I'm paraphrasing, "Dear dedicated conservative donor, thank you so much for your generous donation to the PC party. Your donation will help us too. If I had opened the envelope to find pictures of my husband with another woman I would have been less shocked and horrified." I sat there, open-mouthed for a solid minute before it finally occurred to me to check the envelope. It was addressed to the little old man who had lived at our address before us. I found a picture of a cock on my wife's phone. Then I remembered that I sent it to her. Nice to know she kept it though. The first time I was out with some of my wife's friends from grad school, one of the girls saw me texting someone named Sally. She went up to my wife and said, "Just so you know, Bacon Jelly Beans has is texting some chick named Sally." My wife started laughing because she knows Sally is my phone nickname for my buddy Joe, who is kind of a Sally sometimes, hence the nickname. Found a picture on my husband's phone of a newborn and a message below saying "Saish looks like you." Mild panic ensued until I looked a little deeper. Turns out, it was a group chat with some co-workers and the message was intended for the mother. Kid did, in fact, turn out to be a mini copy of the mom, edited because I can't write proper English today apparently. Maybe not quite what you were looking for, but my phone was hooked up to my car's Bluetooth and while I was driving with my wife in the car, I got a voicemail. I played it over the car stereo, and it was a message from a young sounding girl. I freaked and ended the message right away. This, of course, raised suspicions from my wife, but in the end all it was a sales girl telling me the item I'd ordered for my wife was in the store and I could come pick it up. I explained it to her and she believed me. I think I ended the call before the lady identified which store she was from. Forgot that serious tag. OP. My wife is Spanish and when we first started dating my Spanish was really rudimentary. Well, one day I saw that she had posted on a guy's Facebook, "I can't wait to see you primo." Me, not knowing what primo meant, looked it up in a translation site and saw that it meant prime, capital I. Using my not so great logic, concluded that she must be calling the guy her prime, airy, guy. I was crushed because I thought we had something. So, I asked her about it and expressed how disappointed I was that she did not consider me her primary man. Then, she kind of rolled her eyes and told me that primo meant cousin. Before we were married I got into a fit of jealousy once with my wife and went through her phone. I've never been more bored in my life. Nothing. I don't snoop on my wife's phone because I don't want her snooping on mine. All about mutual respect. It took me a long time to realize if someone is going to cheat on you, you have zero control over that. If you're worried that your so is cheating on you, you might not be with the right person. Go with your gut. Obligatory not married yet. My BF at the time started acting weird, working late and hiding his phone away from me. Usually when he is driving and he gets a text he would ask me to get it and reply, however he wouldn't do that and took his phone everywhere with him. So I automatically panicked and thought he was cheating on me. I 100,000% trust him. I have my own anxiety issues. Turns out he was messaging my mom and sister about plans to take me to Disney and propose. Oops, haha. Nothing. She was cheating. I had to get into my so's email while he was out to sea, Navy, to mess with our Netflix account. The first thing in his inbox were half a dozen different receipt emails from flower stores, all with gift messages going to different women. He was one of the only people who got to go ashore when they'd last pulled in. So he took money from a bunch of the guys he works with to send flowers to all their wives. I didn't really suspect anything untoward, but it made me laugh. If I were the suspicious sort, you'd be in so much trouble. Way. Not married, but one time I thought my dad was cheating on my mum because I was on his laptop and saw one of those sketchy slut girls in your area. Jenny says hi with boob pics and stuff. Don't ask me why I was on a website with those kind of adverts on. I honestly don't remember. I was 9. 9-year-olds click on Weirdit. I do remember going to my mum in tears, saying that dad was going to leave us and that she was being cheated on, and I'd seen a girl saying hi to him with her boobs out and stuff. My mum was pretty worked up until I showed her the incriminating advert and she got to explain to her 9-year-old that those are not real people and dad is not cheating on her. He just needs an ad blocker. Hope I'm not late. Not married and it is my parents' story. My parents are together since high school. A few years ago my mother came crying to my brother and I. She said, "I can't believe what I found in your dad's computer. Go and look at it. He is cheating on me," which at first me and my brother found super weird. My dad doesn't have any social media accounts, and he wouldn't leave the computer out in the open like that if he was indeed cheating. We went to their room. Notebook open on their bed. First thought, okay, my dad is not so dumb that he will cheat on mom and leave the proof open on their bed. As I got to the computer, the Pirate Bay was open, and I already knew what it was about. She saw one of those XXX ads and thought my dad was searching for prostitutes in his location. My brother and I started laughing like crazy. When my dad got home he also laughed a lot. That was one hell of a roller coaster for her though. My wife found a woman's necklace under our bed. I could not figure out how it got there, but she had a pretty strong suspicion that something was up. Best I could come up with was that our short-term tenants from the summer before had lost it and it had been sitting there for a year. That's plausible, right? She was not persuaded. Both plausible and accurate. I emailed them and they confirmed it was theirs. Thank God. I never go looking for a fight. My wife's phone is hers. That being said, we use each other's phones all the time. One time she did find a hotel key in my wallet. She just handed it to me saying she found it. I was baffled for a straight 30 seconds until it hit me. A co-worker from another office had flown in to do some IT work and the card had an offer for a free sandwich on it. He asked me if I wanted it and I said sure and then forgot I had it in my wallet. Never did get